Let's create this surreal landscape art. You know, one of those days you wake up from bed and then you open up your laptop and you see a new screensaver? I saw this image and I thought to myself, hey, this image looks cool. So I checked out the origin of the image further. And then my mind starts percolating on how I could recreate this image and put my own spin on it. So let's do this in Blender, shall we? Before we start, let's remove all the objects in the viewport. Press A to select everything and X to delete. To break it down, there are three main things in order to execute this: semicircle structure, the background, and the water plane. Before we begin, first I want you to split the viewport into two sections. Click on the viewport icon and from the drop-down list, select Image Editor. And then click on the folder icon and select your image to be displayed here. Here is where you are going to display your reference image. It's key to have a reference image so you can try to closely capture details and proportions of the object you wish to create. So have that downloaded beforehand. Now let's create the structure. Shift A under Mesh, select Circle, and then press number pad 7 on your keyboard, or you could click the Z on the gizmo above like I did. Zoom in by scrolling upwards using your mouse. So then increase the vertices to 455. And then you can increase the radius to 1.8 meters, or you could press S on the keyboard and scale it outwards. Just like how I did. The gizmo on the top right corner, select -Y or number pad 1. This will shift your view and now you can see it's flat. Make sure the circle is selected, press the R key followed by the X key and 90, which is essentially instructing Blender to rotate the circle on the X-axis by 90 degrees. Now I would like to introduce some width. To give it some thickness, this requires some changes in the geometry, and we have to do it in Edit View. Press Tab on your keyboard. This will switch you from Object View to Edit View. And click X on the gizmo or number pad 3 on your keyboard, and now from Side View, press the E key on your keyboard to extrude, followed by the Y key, meaning we are extruding the width on the Y-axis. Next, select all the vertices at the back by pressing Alt and click on the edge, or press A to select everything. Now from the front view, number pad 1, press E, followed by S to scale inwards. I'm happy with how this is looking so far. So now let's switch back to object mode and we can add some modifiers. Next, we will add some modifiers. So with modifiers, we can introduce some effect on the geometry. On the bottom right corner is the object properties. Select the wrench symbol, click Add Modifier, generate Subdivision Surface, and switch it to Simple. So now, before I forget, I intend to create this render in cycles. So I'm doing this switch right now. So let's get back to the modifiers. So as you can see, the edges on this structure feels too sharp. So I want to use a bevel modifier to introduce a bit of a bevel. Not too sharp and not too blunt either. So select the width type, offset with 0.015 meter. Lastly, I will add the Solidify modifier followed by Ctrl-A scale to standardize the scale values to 1 on all the axes. Switch to edit mode. Next, press Z to go into wireframe mode. This is so we can see our object in wire edges, and this will give us the visibility while we slice it in half to create a semicircle. Press the B key to activate the box select tool, then click and drag to select the bottom half. Then press X to delete the vertices. Switch back to solid mode. Then hit under to delete the extruding vertices. So just select all of them, front and back, and press X to delete the vertices. Then select the 4 vertices and then press F to form a face. Do the same thing on the opposite side. This part would not be visible in the render, however I like to cover it up. How you do one thing is how you do everything anyways, and plus this doesn't take up too much time. Same thing, select the extruding vertices and press X to delete them. And select all 4 corners of the vertices and press F to form a face. Moving on to the next thing, we would like to duplicate the semicircle just like in the reference image. So add modifier generate array. And then increase the count to 5 as there are 5 of them in the reference image. We want them in line along the y-axis. So check the relative offset and then 0 the values on the x and y column, and then decrease the value in the z column. My value is negative 30.2. Next, switch to edit mode by pressing tab and then split the screen and select the UV editor. In edit mode, press U and then select unwrap. I couldn't unwrap my mesh, so I would have to introduce a seam around the edges to enable it to unwrap. And here I'm trying to get a little closer at the back end to create a seam on the edge. To introduce a material, we need to unwrap the model. This is to allow Blender to accurately map the textures. Press Alt and click on the edge. This will select all the vertices on the edge. And then press E and select Mark Seam. And now you can proceed to unwrap by pressing the U key and select Unwrap. Now you can see the mesh displayed in the UV editor. Once unwrapped, you can manipulate and adjust the UV layout in the UV editor to optimize how the texture will be applied to your model. I suggest displaying the reference image on another screen as I'm changing the image editor to shader editor. In the shader editor, we can customize the appearance of materials on 3D objects. Before that, you need a texture to apply to the object. I suggest getting one at textures.com or polyhaven.com. I'm not affiliated to this website whatsoever. I just like the textures they offer over there. Browse through any material on there. I choose a material called Paint Plaster. You can choose any one to your liking. They also offer free materials. Make sure to download all 5 textures and save them in a folder. Click New in the shader editor. Select the Principal BSDF, then press Ctrl-Shift-T. Then select the folder where you have downloaded all the textures, then click the blue button that says Principal Texture Setup. Now you have the material applied onto the object, and to see it, you can switch to Material Preview or Rendered View in Object Mode. Looks dark, so I'm gonna add some world lighting. So in the shader editor, switch from object to world. Click on the color tab and then drag the slider upwards to increase the strength. Switch the UV editor tab to 3D viewport in rendered view so you can view the effect. Now you can choose to increase the strength or the color of the lighting to your liking. After sorting the world lighting, come back to Object in the shader editor.